All right, thanks everyone today. I appreciate you sitting in with us on this meeting and joining us to talk about telework best practices. We're living in such a different world today, different world for a lot of different reasons, but obviously the biggest one is the COVID-19 pandemic and what that's challenged us with as companies, as individuals, as families. And so what we want to do is spend a little time today just talking to you about telework best practices and things that we've learned. For some of you, I may know you, some of you I don't, but just in case, my name is Chris Bombi, and I am the Vice President of Sales and Delivery for our products group at Fusion Alliance. And we took our team remotely 2 or 3 years ago, and we actually, prior to the pandemic, we were working remote 4 out of 5 days a week anyway. And then we started now obviously working 5 out of 5 days a week. And for us, it really was kind of business as usual. We have customers all over the country. And so we weren't with those customers on a day-to-day basis anyway. So working remotely really was an extension. And quite frankly, up until a few months ago, our customers, many of them didn't know we were working remotely. So I think that's a testament to how well it's worked. And so there was a team of us that worked on a project and came together to talk about just what we've learned over the years as best practices. And what we've learned is as you start to take on those best practices, initially it's a bit of a bump in the road working from home or wherever you choose to work on a remote setting. But really, once you start to put these best practices in work and you get over that hump, we've found ourselves to be more productive. Things like if you have a service technician to your home, instead of having to take a half a day off, you simply let them in, get them started, and you're right back at work again. And so we found it to really be a positive thing for us. So today, as a part of that, we're going to talk about maintaining a productive and connected culture. Then we'll talk about communication while working remotely, because there are some different things you need to think about as you do that. Then we'll get into some more generic remote work best practices, and then some question and answer time. And then at the end, for those who want to stick around, we'll have some training around Microsoft Teams. Many of you may already be experienced with that, and you may not need that. And there'll be opportunities down the road for more detailed training, but we wanted to at least do a high level, again, just to try to make you as productive as possible. And then in the end, we'll have some time for questions and answer. So the first thing to talk about is our culture. And the big thing about our culture is it's our culture. It's our job to protect that culture. We've spent time developing who we are, who we want to be, where we're going, and just what Fusion is as a whole. And that's what makes up our culture. And now our job is to protect it. I want to share this quote with you that I think is really, really good. And I think it says so much about the time we're living in right now. It's by Warren Buffett, and it says, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." And I think it's important for us to remember that there were many people who came before us who have developed this culture, who have poured their heart and soul into who we are and what we're about. And our job now as corporate citizens of this is to protect that culture and carry that culture on and continue to grow that culture. You know, I've had the good fortune of being with our company since the beginning. So I have a tremendous amount of passion for who we are as a company. Not just the work we do on a day to day basis for our customers, but who we are as individuals. Any of you have heard me talk before, you hear me use a term a lot that says we hire A plus professionals who are A plus plus people. And we found over the years that's not only caused us to keep people within our company for a long time, but also give our customers that highest level of service they've come to know and expect. And so I think it's important, again, for us just to understand that, you know, someone planted that tree a long time ago, and our job is to continue planting those trees. So the first thing in terms of culture I want to talk about is just our values, because at the end of the day, our values are our culture, and it's important to understand that. The values set forth within our company are the very definition of what our culture should be. And if we live out those values with our mission and our vision just lasered in focus, we can accomplish anything. It doesn't matter where we're located in work. It doesn't matter what our role is, but we can accomplish anything. And I think these pictures here we have on the slide are a tremendous representation of who we are as a company. If you'll notice the first picture up there at the top, that's us building a Habitat for Humanity home. You know, certainly there's a lot more work that goes on after we do our single day, but in a single day, We put together the structure of a home that someone less fortunate than us can have a chance to live in and can have a chance to share those same hopes and dreams that we get to share every day. And it's not just a small home, it's often a two-story home, and it's something that we come together and collectively do. And that's the thing I love so much about cultures and teams and being a part of something is it's so much bigger than us. It's so much more than we can accomplish as an individual. And that's what we need to be about, is accomplishing those larger things. Here's referenced in the community. If you look down at the bottom, another aspect of our culture, I picked that picture, is the casual side of it. That's a group of our employees who are participating on a softball team and a summer league, something that's relaxed, but an opportunity for them to engage in a casual social type of a manner. And then if you look in the middle, it's a work setting. It's a collaboration session where we've got employees who are getting together and they're working on the whiteboard and sticky notes and posters and things to come up with the very best solution. Because at the end of the day, all of us are way stronger than any one of us as an individual. And if we keep that incorporated throughout our culture, the fact that we're remote doesn't matter. We can still collaborate. We can still contribute to our community. And I'll talk more about that as we go along. We can still have social interaction, and we can still continue to grow and build on this culture that people have put in place before us and that we now have an opportunity to expand. So let me start with sharing just a little bit as a reminder what our core values are. Doug's presented these in meetings to us here very recently, but all along the way. And it's something that we hear on a regular basis, but I thought it was important just to put in front of us again. Those values for us that have been determined are character, family, team, creativity, and commitment. And all of those things together help make up our culture. Let me show you how. So when we talk about maintaining this culture, you'll notice the circles on these slides that we've put on here, and some of them are highlighted. You'll notice creativity not highlighted here. What we've tried to do with each of these items is show you how each of these items help to maintain a portion of that culture. They help to drive one of those values. They help us to share one of those values in that particular item. So this first one, when working remotely, is be intentional with your communication. Have conversations with your coworkers that are about more than just work. Ask how they're doing. Ask how their family is doing. Just recently, I was on a call with one of our team members whose mother was about to pass away. They were going to take her off the ventilator, and they knew at that point it was going to be a very short period of time before they would lose her. And so we talked about that and the feelings that he had with that. Sometimes I might talk with coworkers about their kids and what their kids are doing and things that they're a part of, and share in that and let the people that you're working with know that they're important, that they matter to you, that this communication matters to you, that quite simply you care about them. Second thing there, be open to others reaching out to you with questions or help on an assignment. When you're working in a remote setting, it's easy to go down a rabbit hole and try to figure something out on your own when you very quickly could have contacted someone else to get their help and maybe moved on beyond that particular issue. We work in the world of technology. How many times do we solve a problem simply by having another set of eyes look at the problem, a fresh set of eyes? So be open to others reaching out to you. Let them draw upon your experiences and ask questions of things that you can help them with. The third thing there is be present when communicating. Don't do other things when someone is talking to you, but instead listen with intention. We're all guilty of it. And it's so easy on these remote settings. You're in a meeting and you look over at your email and you start responding to an email or an IM or something of that nature. And before you know it, you've lost focus on the person who's talking with you. And it does not take long till all of a sudden you don't know what they've said. And now you may have to have them repeat, or you may answer a question incorrectly, things like that. So when you're on these meetings and you're talking with someone in a remote setting, listen with intention. Take notes in your mind of what it is that they're saying. The next item there, make sure all members of your team clearly know the roles on their team. their assignments and their common goals so that everyone is working towards the same thing. And I would extend that to not just the team, but understand what your role is within our company, within your customer's company, within the broader community that we live in. Each of us serve a purpose, and each of us have been put here for a very important purpose and a very specific purpose. And the more that we can understand about our role, our assignment, and how we're contributing, not only do we help the company succeed, the customers succeed, but it also is so fulfilling. I mentioned earlier, I love being a part of teams. And one of the reasons that I do is because you can accomplish something so much bigger than yourself. I alluded to the Habitat for Humanity house earlier. I couldn't even consider going out and building a house on my own. But when those gentlemen from Habitat for Humanity, or ladies in some cases, they come in with their plans and we all gather together as a team and start swinging hammers and putting up walls, all of a sudden we've created something that's so much bigger than ourselves. And that's how we are every single day. Our customer has a goal that they need to accomplish, which then is our goal, our company's goals. And the more that we understand how we fit into that and how we help that progress forward, the better off we're going to be. And then the last bullet item on this slide is ensure that every employee is called by leadership on a regular basis. And again, seek to have conversations on a personal level. And I would flip that as well. I would say you as an employee, take the time to contact your leadership. At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all struggling through this. We're all have fears of, what if it hits my family? What if it hits a loved one? What happens if it hits? Is it going to be, a death defining experience, or are we just going to go through it like we would any other sickness? What happens if we lose our job? What happens if a restaurant closes? Whatever the case may be, we're all struggling in our own way. So take the time to talk to one another and share at a personal level what those things are that you're going through. And as a leader, I want to make sure that each of our people are talked to on a regular basis, that nobody's out there on an island trying to do this on their own, whether it's their professional assignment or their personal lives. We want people to know that at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And the way that we'll come out stronger on the other side is if we keep mindful of that. And with this first item here, just be intentional with your communication. The second area for maintaining that culture is have regularly scheduled meetings. I mentioned earlier when we went remote as a products group, we worked at home 4 out of 5 days a week. Well, that fifth day we went into the office, and that was our time to have face-to-face meetings, to have design sessions, to do things. And we knew we always had that time a week where we would connect with one another and we would see one another. Well, now that we don't have that, we have to find other ways to have those meetings. And one of that is to have regular meetings, regular touch points. They create natural points of accountability. One of the biggest things for successful remote working is that we each be accountable to one another, and the person next to us trusts us to do our job. Well, those meetings are natural points of accountability, because if I know that I'm going to have to meet with Doug today, or I'm going to have to meet with one of my teammates today, and they're expecting me to have something done, if I know that's coming up, that's that much more sense of urgency for myself to make sure that I get that work done and I don't let any of my team members down. Regular meetings create natural communication points. Let's face it, not all of us are comfortable with picking up a phone and calling somebody or sending a chat or whatever, but all of a sudden now we have these meetings. That's a natural place of communication for us, a natural opportunity for us to talk to one another and share with one another. Another thing regular meetings do is they keep people connected, and they give everyone a chance to ask questions and stay informed. As a company, we try to stay transparent. We try to make sure people are aware of our stances on things and our directions we're headed. But it's natural. There's going to be communications. And at the end of the day, not everyone is comfortable asking those questions. I was reminded the other day, I had said, well, if I didn't have time, I could fall off of a meeting. I would just send Doug an email and ask him questions. And a friend of mine commented to me, said, yeah, you can do that, but not everyone is comfortable doing that. And that really rang true to me. Not everybody's comfortable asking questions, but you get in a meeting and we each bounce ideas off of one another. And all of a sudden now it's much more comfortable to ask those questions and make sure that we're staying informed about whatever it is that we need to know about. The last item there is make those meetings engaging. When you're meeting in a remote setting, it's very easy to get bored. It's very easy to get stale. And so one of the ways to change that is have things like prize giveaways, trivia contests, things like that to think outside the box and just make those meetings something that people look forward to, not something that they dread. The next item for keeping our culture is be creative on ways to meet socially. I mentioned earlier that we went into the office one day a week, and that was an opportunity to go to lunch with people, to spend time catching up with what's going on in each other's lives. Now that we don't have that, we have to think outside that box. I'm sure all of you have seen on social media people talk about happy hours or things that they're getting together. And certainly, you're providing your own beverages, your own snacks, but it's an opportunity for you guys to get together and to talk. We started doing those in the products group since we've been on this quarantine time. We started doing those on Friday afternoon. And I'll be honest, the first time that we did it, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I just wasn't sure as a general statement. And man, after I did it, I love it. I love that opportunity for us to get together because we have no set agenda. We talk about what movies have we watched that have been good? What TV shows have we watched? Are our kids doing anything special? How's e-learning going? Whatever's on anyone's mind at the time. Last week, we played a little karaoke game. I put myself on mute. I sang songs for our team, and they had to guess what song I was singing. Whoever got the most points got a prize. Those were ways for us to engage with one another on a social setting that have no pressure, no professional deadlines, no things like that, but still keep us connected. Another way is schedule virtual lunch meetings. In our company, we have lunch meetings all the time. Why not still have those lunch meetings, but just do them virtually? Maybe it's a casual setting, maybe it's a regular professional meeting, but you all get your lunch at a certain time, you sit down, you put your video on, and you talk with one another. Another opportunity is group chat. You can watch a video, read a book together, work on a community project together, whatever it is, but do that in a virtual setting. In the products group, we've done a few book studies together. John Gordon is one of my favorite authors, and it's not he's saying anything new, but he says things in a way that really resonate with me. I'm a big believer in positive energy, positive activity. I think it's scientific that the more positive energy you have around you, the better chance you have to be successful. I don't want to have negative people around me. I don't want to have negative thoughts dragging me down. And so what we did with these books, we read different ones. The Power of a Positive Team, as an example, was one that we read, and we talked about how can we put that into our culture? How can we help one another to stay positive? Because let's face it, we all have challenges. Good lands, we're in one of the biggest challenges of our lifetimes right now. So finding ways to stay positive and look for solutions to the problem, not just bringing the problems to the table. Group chat is a great way to do that. Book studies are a great way to do that. Another way is utilize a website to facilitate team building activities or games, things that just simply engage. One of our teammates here recently set up a poker tournament. That was a virtual online poker tournament. What a great idea. It was a table of just Fusion employees. We weren't spending a bunch of money or whatever. We were just spending time talking with one another, sharing in some friendly banter with one another. And I thought, what a great idea of thinking outside the box of ways to get together socially. And, I've let them know I want to be on the invite for that going forward so that I could participate in that as well. So there's just some easy ways to meet socially and help our culture continue to be what it is. The next thing, make it easy for people to communicate and work together. Complete a project with a small team that works together regularly. I'm on a team right now where we have a certain day a week. We spend 2 or 3 hours just bouncing design ideas off of each other and talking through our processes and figuring that out. Do things in those small teams so you don't have people feel like they're off on an island working on their own. Make sure all team members use Teams and have it open. When we first went to a remote setting, one of the things we said is you need to have it was Skype at that time, and now it's Teams, but you need to have that open and you need to have your status set. So if you do go off for a walk or you go off to do something else, set your status your way so people know they can't get a hold of you during that time, but you'll be right back in a certain amount of time. But make sure that's open. And then, people may not necessarily want to give a phone call, but they just want to shoot you a quick question over chat. You can respond back to it very quickly, and then people move on down the road, much like text messaging would be. Make sure all members keep their calendars updated. So let people know when you're working. We decided when we were going to work remotely that we wanted people to have set work hours. It didn't matter what it was. Some people, they're 6 to 3 kind of people, they're 7 to 4 kind of people, whatever your work hours are, have that on your calendar so that people know when you're available, when they can schedule meetings with you, when they can expect you to respond to issues, things of that nature. Having those calendars up to date has become really, really important for us. Excuse me. Another thing is to give people latitude to make decisions. When you're working in a telework setting, you don't always have someone there to answer the question, to make a decision. Give people the freedom to make those decisions on their own. Certainly, there's a limit to that. I'm not going to go out and sign a contract on behalf of all of Fusion without going through the proper channels. There's checks and balances in those things, but certainly I can make a decision around a design idea or design paradigm. And if it's wrong, we'll fix it. That's why we're a team, right? We come together and we make things better the second time around than maybe we did the first time around. But find ways that you can make decisions to help the customer move forward, your team move forward, and Fusion as a whole move forward. And the last item there is give people an opportunity to step outside their comfort zone and do something new. I think when you're working remotely, one of the things that can happen is you can get into a rut. You can get into doing the same thing day in, day out. Well, what a great opportunity to do something new. Just the other day, I signed up for a class over lunchtime where I learned a new tool that I thought could help me. It wasn't something big, it wasn't something earth shattering, but something where I could expand myself. I mentioned earlier the book sessions. One of the things I liked about those is I'm challenged as a person by my team. And when we have those discussions, am I being a good husband? Am I being a good father? Am I being a good leader? Am I being a good teammate? That's when you have the opportunity to step outside your comfort zone. That's when you can really start to grow. That's when you can really start to expand who you are as a person, as an employee, as a teammate, on and on and on. So those are some things that again, just kind of help keep our culture in play. The next thing to talk about, that I think is one of the greatest things about Fusion is taking the time to make sure people feel special. I've worked for Fusion for a very long time, and one of the things I've always valued is that Fusion thinks of me as a person, not a number, not a part of the bottom line, not a revenue producer, but a human being that matters. I mentioned earlier, we have A+ professionals who are A++ people. We have people who do so many things outside of work that contribute to the greater good. I had someone send me an email the other day where they have been working with a food pantry for like the last 6 years, and they're delivering meals to people who are less fortunate. How cool is that? How awesome is that? We need to talk to each other about that. We need to compliment each other about those things. We have people who do so many great things that we just don't always take the time to share. We have ways to do that you can leverage, things like high fives, but also do shout outs in meetings. Simply send a chat message to say, hey, great job. Your presentation that you just did was fantastic. I learned something. I got something out of it. Or, hey, your comment in that meeting, I really appreciate you sharing that because that's something that I was feeling as well, but maybe I wasn't as comfortable sharing that in an open setting, but you helped me to have strength to do that. You never know when that word was exactly what someone needed at that moment in time. Continue to celebrate life events, birthdays, anniversaries, etc. Let people know that it matters, that it's important to you. The other day we had a member of our team have a birthday, and so I'm getting used to the new video in our remote setting, and so I turned the video on and I sang happy birthday to him. Now I can assure you that may not have been the most pleasant thing for him, but I promise you he smiled and said, hey, that was pretty cool that someone took the time to do that. And it's something small. Did I have to let my guard down a little bit? Absolutely. Did I have the risk of looking foolish? Certainly. But that was a chance where I could make him feel special and say, I care about you as a person, not just an employee. Find ways, I mentioned this earlier, find ways to share the good things that our A++ people are doing outside of work. We've got Sunday school teachers, we've got people working in food pantry, we got people who are delivering meals to shut-ins during this time. We got people who are going to nursing homes, standing outside windows and communicating to those that are in the nursing home that maybe can't get outside. We have so many things that we're doing, so many things that our customers are doing. Take this opportunity to contact your customer on a personal basis. We talk to our customers all the time about our work projects, but how often do we spend time talking to our customers about life? One of the things I love about Fusion is our customers are our team. We're not a company who's just going out and looking for the next buck. We're a company who's going out and looking for how can we add value to our customers. Well, one of the things we can add value, one of the ways we can add value is sharing things like these best practices with our customers, developing that deeper relationship so that as you hit those rough times, and they always come, they always will, but as you hit those rough times and with a customer, now you've got that stronger bond that you share that allows you to go beyond that tough time and to solve that problem and come out stronger on the other side. Because at the end of the day, that's what a culture does, right? Is it helps you through difficult times. It helps you to come out on the other side of a challenging moment stronger than you were when you went into that moment. So I'd like to end this section with a quote by a gentleman from IBM, who's a retired CEO, that says, "I came to see that culture isn't just one aspect of the game, it is the game." And I think that is so important for us to understand culture within our company, culture with our customers, culture within our family. You listen to any motivational speaker, any visionary leader, any successful person in an organization, what they will tell you is without great culture, it's difficult to accomplish great things. Well, what if we say, okay, hey, we have a great culture. We're going to continue to grow that to be even better. We're going to share that with our customer and have a great culture with our customer. Anything can be accomplished. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. And as we go into this remote work time, it's important to not lose sight of that, but to understand our culture is the game and our job is to protect it. The next thing we want to talk about is communicating online while we're working remotely, because let's face it, it is a little bit of an art. It's a little bit of a challenge to communicate in general, but particularly when working remotely. Share another quote with you by Tony Robbins, who's an author and motivational speaker, and it says, "Communication is power. Those who have mastered its effective use can change their own experience of the world and the world's experience of them. All behavior and feelings find their original roots in some form of communication." One of the things when you're working remotely is you can't always read body language. You can't always read facial expressions, things like that. So you got to learn new ways to communicate. You got to learn new ways to share in what you're feeling, what you're thinking, things like that. And the more that we can be open with one another, more that we can communicate with one another, the more we can change not only our own experience of the world, of our team, of our company, of our customer, but also their experience of us. And so let's talk about some of those things with online meeting best practices. First off, start with the right setup. Comfort. Choose an area that is comfortable for you. When we first started working remotely, I had a desk chair that, I'm fairly tight financially. I don't like to spend money. And my wife was like, "Man, you need to get a more comfortable chair." And I'm like, "Nah, this will be good. I can use this. I'm tough enough. I can fight through it." Well, the chair eventually broke and I had to get a new chair, and I had to kind of bow my head and say to her, "You are so right. This new chair makes such a big difference." Set your work area up to be comfortable. You're there all day long. Make sure it's a place that you're comfortable to sit in. The next thing, quiet on the set. Find a location that's noise, distractions, interruptions are limited as much as possible. We're going to have distractions. Let's face it, we all are in a different world here where, like for me, I'm normally the only one at home when I'm working remotely. Well, now I have my kids, I have my wife, I have other people in the house. And so distractions are going to happen. Perhaps a baby cries, a dog barks, whatever the case may be. But the more you can limit those things, the better off you are in these meetings. Dress for success. If you normally dress business casual when you meet with a customer, when you're having an online meeting with them and videos involved, dress business casual. Dress in a way that you're comfortable to be as productive as possible and that the people you're meeting with are comfortable as well. If we have a customer that when we went on site, they always wanted us in a jacket and tie. I'm not a jacket and tie guy, but that was what made them most comfortable. That was what set up an environment for them to be most successful. And so I wore a jacket and tie. The same is true in a remote setting when you're having remote meetings. Dress in a way that makes you and those that you're meeting with most comfortable. Next thing with online meetings is get your communication tools ready. Get yourself a headset that has a microphone that's compatible with your customer's online meeting solution. Might be a noise canceling headset, a microphone situation, anything that gives you the greatest clarity in communication during these meetings. And then the next thing, the camera. Oh, the camera, right? Position the camera so that your audience is looking you square in the eye. How many times do we have a camera where you're looking up someone's nose or you're looking above their head or there's a lot of distractions in the background? Position your camera so that the audience is looking at you in the eye and they're having a conversation with you as if they were sitting with you. I've been on a lot of these meetings now, and the more that can be done, you'll be surprised at how realistic that feels. The next thing is using video to your benefit. So we talked about turning on the camera. When we first started working remotely, we did everything just verbally. And I was very pleasantly surprised at how much video really did make a difference. I can't go around the corner and sit with these people, but certainly when I'm looking at them eye to eye in an online meeting, it feels like I'm sitting with them. The next thing there is blur your background, and it's very easy to do this in Teams. If your customer uses other things like Zoom or things like that, sometimes there's virtual settings in the background, but you'll notice in the picture we've provided for you here, in the picture whether it's blurred, you're focusing just on that individual. You're looking him in the eyes, you're recognizing his smile. On the other picture, you notice the stickers or things in the background. But remember I talked about limiting distractions. With those things in the background, now you have those distractions versus the picture on the right there with the blurred background is much more easy to concentrate and focus in on the conversation. And again, remember earlier I talked about listen with intent. If I'm only focusing on him, it's much easier to listen with a greater intention. The next thing are some ways to just make the meeting more effectively right from the beginning of the meeting. And one of those is introduce yourself. I started this meeting by introducing myself to you. I recognize some of you may know me, but there's others who don't. And the more you can help everyone know who you are in the context of your background, the more engaging it can be, the more credibility you might bring to the table. But mostly just people, you hear that term kind of put a face with a name. Now you're putting some context with the person that's talking and you can get to know them on a different level. Be heard. Share your thoughts, share your ideas. I tell our people all the time, I don't want a bunch of yes men. I want people who are going to challenge what we decide. Certainly once we make a decision, we're going to go down that path. But I want to make sure that we've looked at every aspect, that we've thought about every element so that we're providing for our customer the very best solution we possibly can provide. The same is true when we're talking about these remote settings. If you have thoughts of ways to make meetings better, make sessions better, share those thoughts, share those ideas. You heard me say earlier, we hire A+ people or A+ professionals who are A++ people. Well, part of that A+ professional is share your ideas. We hired you for a reason. You are top notch. Let your ideas, let your thoughts be heard. And then the last item on there, remember, mute is your friend. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a meeting and people have had their microphones on and you hear paper shuffle, you hear kids in the background, dogs in the background, whatever, and it just takes away from whomever is talking. As soon as you get on that meeting and you've introduced yourself and you're ready to start, put that microphone on mute. Then when it's time for you to talk, take it off mute, say what you have to say, put it back on mute. It will make it far easier for everyone to hear one another and far easier for you to communicate in this remote setting. Next thing is just some tips on improving communication when you're using the various meeting apps. And I mentioned earlier we're using Teams here at Fusion, but with your customer, you may be using Skype or a Skype for Business. You may be using Slack. You may be using Zoom. Whatever it is that you're using, add your picture. Let people be able to see your face. It should just be a headshot with a plain background, but something where they can, again, like I mentioned earlier, kind of put a face with a name. Include your contact information. Let people know how they can get a hold of you. And basically what you're doing is giving them permission. Let's say they go to chat with you, but they see in your status there that you've stepped away for a moment. Well, if you've added your cell phone in your contact information, now they know they can text you to deal with that urgent need. And then lastly, invite them to contact you. Let them know that it's okay. I mentioned earlier, take time to help people. Take time to let people know it's okay to reach out for help from you. Well, one of the ways you can do that is right in that status line. Hey, I'm working from home. Feel free to contact me via email, via chat, via text, whatever way you want to be communicated to. Let people know that, share that with them. The next thing then in this session we want to talk about is just some general best practices for working remotely, some things that we've found that make this remote telework situation work most efficiently. First thing in that is maintain and communicate regular hours. I mentioned that earlier. When are your customers working? When are your colleagues working? Communicate that with one another. Are you on the same time zones, different time zones? I mentioned earlier, we have customers all over the country. We do have to deal with time zone differences. So let people know when they can expect you to be available and how you prefer to be communicated with. Get to know your colleagues' hours and their preferred ways of communication. That is so important. We have a lady that works for us that she gets up, she works very early in the morning. Then she takes a half hour, hour to fix her kids' breakfast, get them on the bus, get them off to school. That is such a special time that she gets to have with her children. I don't want to interrupt that time. I don't want to send her a text or be trying to chat with her or set up meetings during that time. I want that time to be sacred, that time to be a special time for her and her children to have together, to start the day together on a good note. So getting to know your colleagues' schedules allows you to work around things like that. We have another gentleman who at 2:45, he goes and picks his daughter up from school every day. That is so awesome. That is maybe 15, 20 minutes of the day that he and his daughter get to spend together that I know I'm not going to interrupt that time. So I schedule around that time if I need to have a meeting with him. Make it personal. Find a way that works best for you and for your team. Be flexible. We talk about using an agile methodology when we do our projects. Be agile in your day-to-day life. Be flexible. Be adaptive to what works best for you and your team. We have one gentleman on our team who's from Taiwan, and occasionally he'll go back to visit family. And when he does, he adjusts his work schedule to match our schedule. Completely different time zone, completely different moment in time, but he adjusts to be adaptive, to be flexible, so that he can continue to make the telework arrangement work. And I think that's awesome. What a tremendous, we talk about balancing work and family life. What greater representation than that? Here, this gentleman goes all the way to Taiwan to spend time with his family and still makes remote work, telework work awesome. And that's what, again, that's part of making it personal. Be present and be heard. Don't be multitasking, but be listening intently. Be engaged in meetings. That just makes the telework be that much more positive experience for people. Which leads to my next one there. Be positive. Have a good tone. Have empathy. Have emotions. Those are hard to share over phones or hard to share over email. But when you share your video, now people can see your facial expressions. When you get excited over what happens in people's lives, we have another member on our team who does Taekwondo, and he sent me a video of when he got his next belt. I was so excited for him. It was so much fun for me to watch that, and I could share that with him. That's one of the things, and we referenced earlier about reading the John Gordon books. It's one of the things he talks about is be excited for one another, share in one another's success, and quite frankly, cry in one another's sorrow. Let people know that you feel that emotion that they're feeling at the time and share that with them. That just leads to those deeper bonds, and that, again, our culture, it continues to evolve that. Be patient. We're all learning how to work remotely. Some of us are better with technology than others. Be patient with that. Likewise, be patient. You don't know what that person's gone through, which kind of goes hand in hand with the next bullet item there of practice empathy. Maybe that person has had to just discipline their child. Maybe that person just had to go through an e-learning lesson with their child, and it was on something that they maybe didn't feel really strong in. And so they were frustrated that they couldn't answer their kids' questions. And then all of a sudden you have a meeting with them. Well, they're bound to be in a bad mood. They're bound to be frustrated. That's okay. I talk to our people all the time about let things roll off your back. Don't get upset if someone happens to have a bad tone with you, but rather ask them what's going on. Have that conversation. How can I help? What can I do? And there may not be anything to do other than just lend an ear. Just be there for them, but practice that empathy and that patience that makes that communication go well. Another thing is have a morning and afternoon routine. I heard Doug say one time I thought was really good. If you normally spend a half hour commute into work in the morning and a half hour at home, take that half hour to have time that's for you, whether it's to have a quiet time or to do yoga or to work out or do whatever it is that makes you you. Take that time to do that at the beginning of the day, the end of the day. Remember earlier I talked about that work-life balance. You can have that best work-life balance when you have your own personal balance, when your mind is right, when your heart is right, when your emotion is right. And that morning and afternoon can help with that. The next item there, lifestyle. Take charge and improve your mood, right? We talk all the time. It's a choice. You choose how you engage with people. You choose how you respond. Football coach at Ohio State, Urban Meyer, has a book out that called Above the Line. And one of the things he talks about there is E plus R equals O. The event plus your response equals the outcome. You can't control the event that happens to you, but you certainly can control your response to it, which in turn then controls the outcome. The more positive and the more greater response we have to a particular event, the greater chance we have to be successful. And that can be a small response, right? It can be something as simple as decluttering your desk, going outside for some fresh air, turning some music on, whatever it is that makes you and your lifestyle be at your optimal performance. Find that and do that and take charge of that. And then the last item here that is good for all of us is just exercise. One of the true blessings for me is with my wife being home on this quarantine, we get a chance to take a walk either in the morning or at lunch, and then we do again in the evening. It's not a lot of time, but we get out and we walk together. And not only does that give me exercise I might not normally get, but that also gives me special time that I get to share with my wife that I might not normally get. And so we've kind of given you options here of good, better, best, everything from just getting up and stretching every couple of hours, take a short walk, to actually having workout sessions and blocking out period of your time to do, cycling or yoga or lifting or whatever it is that you do. But take that time to exercise and get up and get moving. One of the things for me when I first started working remotely is I had to challenge myself not to sit at my desk all day. It's easy to get up in the morning, sit in your chair, and then all of a sudden you look at the end of the day and you haven't gotten up. And so, take time to get up and exercise and keep that fresh. And throughout all of these best practices, there were kind of three themes that we felt really stood out: empathy, connection, compassion, listening to others, communication, sharing with one another thoughts and ideas, and really intently asking people how their day is going, how their family's doing. One of the really good things about the COVID-19 is you have an excuse. You have an excuse to talk to people. You have a natural lead in. So if you're not someone that's comfortable having those communication moments, use that. Just simply ask them, hey, how's your family doing? Are they safe? Has anyone been inflicted with the virus in your family? That's a wide open opportunity for you to have those conversations. And then the last thing there is agility and flexibility. Be flexible. Don't be so set in stone that you can't work around the others and their schedules and their needs. We're all in this together. We're all on a team. The beauty of the team is you can accomplish something much greater than yourself. But the challenge of a team is sometimes you have to compromise. Sometimes you have to give in for the betterment of the team, and that's okay. And then we want to leave you with this. some key points here is, in the end of the day, when you work remotely in a telework situation, things are going to happen. When they do, reach out. Technical help. If you have something that's not working technically that you need help with, reach out to our support desk. We have what I would consider a world-class support desk. Those guys, they most of the time they answer your question or solve your problem almost immediately. But if they don't, they'll get back to you. They'll take that question away, they'll find the answer, and they'll get back to you. So don't be afraid to reach out to the help desk. We give you the email there that you can send in a help desk ticket, and someone will respond to you right away. Professional help. If you're stuck, if you have concerns about how do I fit, what is my role, what is my assignment, how am I contributing? Let's face it, we all feel better about ourselves when we know we're contributing, whether that's to our family, to our job, to our customer, whatever. We want to be contributing value to each of those situations. If you're not sure how that is, reach out to your supervisor. I talked about the communication being a two-way street. Find out from them what you can do, how you can contribute more, how you can be a part of the bigger solution that helps all of us be successful. And then the last item there, and you've heard Doug and others say so many times within our company, the most important thing to our company is our people. We want you to be in the right place mentally, spiritually, physically, all of those things. And so if you're struggling on a personal level and you don't have someone you can talk to, you don't feel like you have someplace you can go, utilize our employee assistance program. We give you the number there. Feel free to reach out, ask for help. The worst thing you can do is allow yourself to just sit and struggle through those personal things alone. You're not alone. We're all in this together, and it's important that you reach out and get that help when you need it, whether that's a close friend, your supervisor, or the employee assistance program there. And finally, I'd like to close with this quote by James E. Faust that says, "If there were no night, we would not appreciate the day, nor would we see the stars and the vastness of the heavens. We must partake of the bitter with the sweet. There is a divine purpose in the adversities we encounter every day. They prepare, they purge, they purify, and thus they bless." Are we in a difficult time right now? Absolutely. Will we come out of it on the other side better and stronger as a company and in relationships with our customers? We have the opportunity to. And if we each do our part and we continue to grow our culture, we continue to challenge one another to grow as people, and we utilize this in a positive way, we certainly will be blessed through this adversity. Don't fight it, but embrace it. See it as an opportunity. I mentioned earlier that, taking a class, take it as an opportunity to grow yourself. Take it as an opportunity to take a step away and enjoy things that you might not have noticed. Right now, having my family home, we make sure that we sit around the dinner table every single night and we talk. What a blessing that is. Take time to appreciate the small things, embrace the adversity, and I promise you, we will come through this better and, quite frankly, more productive. And with that, I'll leave it with any questions or questions you may have, and then we can give answers to.